Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Zach and Matt Show, TMS number 25, with the one and only Tom, Nerds for Yang, Nerds for Humanity, the OG Andrew Yang YouTube channel. Tom, welcome to the show.
Matt, I'm so thrilled to be on the show. I've been watching your stuff for, I think, pretty much from the very beginning. So thrilled to be able to talk with you live.
Likewise, and I understand you have this new project that you're working on, which is kind of incredible to me, considering Tom, I don't understand how you do so much stuff. You know, you technically you worked for YouTube. I saw your face on my homepage every single day, which was just wonderful. You just moved to San Francisco from Sweden,
Switzerland, but close enough.
Switzerland.
Everybody thinks Sweden.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably where I heard it from then. You're doing all this stuff with YouTube and Andrew Yang. How do you have time to do all this stuff like this? Now you're launching a whole new project of the people, which, from what I understand, is going to help prospective candidates see if they have like a real opportunity to make a real run.
Yeah, it's been a blast working on all these things. They don't feel like work. You know, I have fun on the Nerds channel, and I'm having a blast on Of the People, and I love my day job, and my kids are awesome, and I love spending time with my wife, of course. So
yeah,
you know, I'm
family too.
yeah.
So much going on.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you can get done, you know, there with say 16 hours of waking time a day. As long as what I've done is I've cut back. I used to play video games from time to time. I've cut back a lot on that. But you know, you can squeeze stuff in if you try.
Yeah.
And I know, Matt, you're always producing content and putting stuff out there and tracking stuff down. So you live the life as well.
Yeah, I try to be. I've been slacking a little bit on YouTube lately, but maybe this will be my episode to get me back in the game. So tell us, what is this Of the People project, and how do people get involved, and why should people even care in the first place?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it came about because I think a lot of us have experienced this instance where you encounter people in your everyday life that you're like, man, you would be a better congressman than the people that are in Congress today. And then, you know, the person says, well, I don't know even how I would do it or whether or not people would be interested. I'm not a politician. And then, you know, your feeling is usually like, yeah, that's why you should run. We want non-politicians to do this. And so part of the mission of the people is to provide a platform where pre-candidates, people who aren't like filing for the FEC and like, you know, getting the photo shoots and everything, but they're just like, well, I don't know. I guess I would consider it if there was enough people interested in my background and my policy positions. But honestly, I don't even know. So is there a quick way for me to kind of get a temperature read? And the idea is that what if we built this platform where on the candidate side, you could create a profile, you could tell the world about yourself, about your policies, maybe answer some questions, fill out some questionnaires. And then on the voter side, you could discover new kind of potential candidates, express interest, ask questions, maybe even pledge some non-binding financial support. And then that could kind of get the kind of incubation going, and maybe only 1 out of 10 of the people candidates actually makes a run. But maybe those people that run would never have done it had it not been for this little nudge and this little bit of kind of market intelligence that we could give them. And they could do it, you know, in a night or in a few hours or a few weeks versus like, you know, quitting your job and immediately going for it, you know, from day one.
Yeah, you know, someone DM'd me on Twitter the other day, and I hope they're watching because this could be useful to them. Like basically saying like, "Hey, I've thought about running in 2022," and like they even sent me like a preview of their flyers that they made and stuff like that, and just wanted to know my thoughts. And you know, the one thing that I said is just like, you know, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, like running for office is truly so hard. And you have to, if you want to win and be successful, you have to truly be so committed. And I just said, like, you know, no matter what, like, make sure you really want to do it and you're really committed before you do it. But I imagine, like, on top of that, being a grassroots candidate, it's just so hard to raise money, and money is so important in politics. Like, it sounds like that this person who messaged me, they'd be able to go on to your site and see if they could actually have like real financial, like
Mhm.
a real financial backing before they get started, because it kind of would suck to, I guess, to like go through like the process of like registering and filing and all that, and just find out like you can't, you like, you know, like, just like, because it's expensive, it's hard to run a campaign.
Yo, that's absolutely right. Like, if you think about today's world, if you've got a great job and you're doing well, or you're busy with your family and you decide to run for Congress, like, it's currently like you reach this cliff and you take this huge leap of faith. And the risk is like, maybe you do all of that, you get all of this put together, and then ta-da, you announce and you get like 5 supporters. Like, well, shoot, like, wouldn't have been better to find that out faster, you know? And so the person that was DMing you, that the idea would be like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to like really put your neck out all the way. You could just say, hey, you know, here's a little bit about me. Here's stuff that I care about. And maybe you tell yourself, look, I need at least 20 people on other people to sign up and say they want to support me, or I need to be able to answer, you know, some of the questions and have enough people engage with it to show me that there's something here. And because I think a lot of it is like with, you know, entrepreneurship and startups, like, you need to know if you can get those first 100 customers to determine if you've got the potential to get the million. And right now, there's not an easy way to know if you're going to get the first 100.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, because like running a business myself, like the one thing that when people like come asking, like people my age, like, hey, man, I want to start a business, how do I get started? I'm always like, make sure you can prove like proof of concept before you really like make a huge investment into it, because and I guess that's kind of like the similar point that you're trying to make with this. And
yeah, it's basically this notion of the minimally viable product. Like, you want to just put as little out there just to see.
yeah,
And
it's like you're trying to think of the analogy for it. You're just like putting getting a whiff of the air,
like a trial balloon, dipping your toe in the water.
Yeah,
You know, hey, it's a crazy idea, I'm thinking of running for Congress. And if you did it and you said, here's about me and here's what I would fight for, and what would happen if like 100 people were like, hey, I really like what you're doing, I like what you're saying, if you run, like, I'll chip in $20. And then suddenly you're like, oh my God, like maybe there's something here. At least there's a couple grand of potential support right out of the gates. And obviously that's not what you need. A lot more to make a competitive run. But on the other flip side, if only 3 people say they're supportive, or a lot of people say like, I would never support you for these reasons, at least you have that market intelligence and you didn't have to make some massive commitment. You could just kind of get that early read.
Because like the way I see it, even if you know, there isn't that interest, and it would suck, because like obviously you wanted to do something, like you still at least you'll be able to use that time more effectively, perhaps volunteering for a candidate that does have enough support and you are passionate about. And like Yang Deng just brought up interesting comment, and it's something that I initially had like a question about, was because I initially saw you talking about this maybe like 2 months ago on Twitter, like at the very before even it blossomed into a real project. We're just throwing this out there, and I remember saying like something along the lines of, well, like, isn't there like some weird FEC requirement with that? But it turns out, as Yang Dang says, you don't have to file to run with the FEC till you raise $5,000. So you could have literally up to $5,000 in pledges and not have to do anything, and that's through your platform. And I think that's a really cool and awesome project.
Yeah, the FEC literally has a testing the waters phase that they say, when you're in this phase where you raise less than 5,000, you don't need to tell us anything. But once you cross over, like then you got to fill out all this stuff. And so, yeah, we're very much focused on that pre-FEC phase where it's like, look, I don't want to make a big deal out of this. I just want to literally, kind of get a temperature read and see if there's enough support there, see what kinds of questions people have, and this will be a good way to kind of on ramp into a real campaign.
Yeah. So how long? I know you just are getting the website. Like I looked at it last night. It actually looks really good. But I think I saw like you're looking to launch like a beta test phase. Was it in October?
Yeah, like late September. Probably late September we'll have the sort of first kind of proof of concept. We just did a live stream on the Nerds channel where we talked with some of the volunteers, and we have 2 software engineers, a designer, and myself on the product side. And then we are pretty close to getting a volunteer attorney as well. But the first, this is going to be an incremental development process. So that landing page you see today is actually built on some third-party technology, and it costs us like $40 a month or something. So our first milestone is we're just going to replace that with our own built website. And then secondly, we'll do authentication and then profiles of candidates and then voter profiles and on and on and on. But yeah, it's very early stages. We're super excited. We just kind of did our first code deployment on the new tech stack that we've been developing. So it's working, but it's definitely real.
Yeah, that's all. I think that's awesome, and I'll definitely be in the future shooting anybody who has interests in running towards your website, and looking forward to the launch. This is a question from Qua, who, oops, my head's not above the below the comment. And it's kind of related, but slightly different. And he says, the best thing Humanity for Yang Gang can do to help the movement is figure out when a seat is open, like where a district is contestable. Basically, which districts have weaknesses and would be best to target. Because, I'm sure like, well, the Yang Gang, we have a pretty big influence. Like, we just pretty much got the DNC to put our boy Andrew Yang on the DNC convention. Like, we unfortunately aren't printing like billions of dollars to just fund all these different seats, and we have to use our resources wisely. Do you think there'd ever be like any sort of tool or project or anything like that that would be able to help identify those districts as well?
Yeah, I mean, there are actually resources available today on the web, like the Cook Report and a few other of like the established political kind of consultant businesses. They basically say what are the kind of battleground districts. I think part of what we could try and do with other people is not only make that a little bit more discoverable and accessible, but also there are unique characteristics that might lend themselves to a candidate that isn't sort of in the traditional two-party system, where let's say we see, the trends are that this thing is turning purple, but the Democrat incumbent has been in there for a long time. Maybe Cook will say, oh, okay, well, that's still not that interesting of a race. But for us, it might be super interesting. And I need to be careful in that part of the mission for other people is that it won't be necessarily targeted just for Yang Gang candidates or just for Republicans or Democrats or Green Party or Libertarian. I think our view is like we just want as many candidates as possible. But you could imagine on the candidate experience side, in addition to creating your profile, maybe there's like a viability wizard that's like, you enter in, your district and your policy positions, and based on data that we can kind of aggregate from a variety of sources, we can tell you like, oh, well, in your district, did
we just lose Tom? Or did we lose me? Darn, I think we lost Tom. No. All right, everyone who's watching, let me know what happened because I have no clue. All I know is Tom's
Dude, you got-
frozen. Oh, he's back.
Dude, those kids.
All right. We lost you for a sec.
My kids are watching Harry Potter, and I think they're using all my bandwidth, but it's the weekend, so I don't feel comfortable just shutting them off from the internet.
Yeah. They deserve some fun.
There you go. A little Harry Potter never kill anyone. So yeah, so the idea is like there's this wizard where you can say, I want to run, and maybe we'll ask you like, okay, what district, what are your policy positions? And then we can say, he's just being very still. I'm like super dead. And we can give you maybe a probability and say, look, we think the most probable candidate for this district doesn't have the same positions that you have, or the voters care more about such and such topics. So it's definitely something that we're thinking about. I think, of course, we're early stages now, so we just want to get authentication and basic profile and kind of voter support up. But I could imagine a whole analytics piece on top of that.
Yeah, like as it develops, like maybe after the beta phase, like if that goes well, maybe like expanding on it from there. And I kind of like the fact that you are making it marketing, I guess, as like a platform that anybody can use, like not just for Yang Gang or Democrats or Republicans or whatever, because it does seem like no matter like what someone's views are, like we just need more everyday average people running for seats in Congress and across our government. And I
think the more choice voters have, the better. The more competition for your vote, the better. And so if we said, oh, this is just for Yang Gang candidates, I think the problem would be, it would be hard to attract enough of a critical mass of voter support, because this is a bit of a two-sided marketplace. Like you need voters that are going to use the platform, and then you need candidates. And if we limit it to saying, well, we only want Yang Gang candidates, that would be a different type of platform. And I think there's a place for that. Our approach is like, hey, let's just get more grassroots candidates from all stripes. And, that's probably going to be a positive thing.
Yeah, I know something like this, it's going to cost some money, like with hosting and cloud and all the rest of it. Is there a way for people to like potentially donate and help support the project?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. So they could check out ofthepeople.co, and that'll give you information about the site. And then there's a link to our Patreon page, Patreon/ofthepeople. And we are collecting donations to fund like storage, hosting, email services, licensing costs, things like that. The good news is that this project, the biggest cost of this project will be labor, and it's all volunteer. So all of the folks that are working on this are full-time employees at in the tech industry. And I should be clear, like our current employers have no knowledge, no involvement, no approval of this project. This is a completely personal thing. But because our volunteers are pretty experienced technology folks, and they're volunteering, and we're not earning any money, we can actually build something that would normally take potentially millions of dollars in budget for a fraction of that. The only downside is that we are limited to our weekends, and so we can all put in a few hours a weekend, and so it's not going to be as fast as a traditional startup, but I think over the long run it'll be really sustainable.
Yeah, it sounds like it's going to be like if everything goes to plan, like up and running by well in time for candidates who would look to run in 2022. So
yes, that's right. So. And I think we're thinking about a beta kind of test launch, maybe the Seattle City Council elections in 2021, and just kind of blow the dust out of the pipes and figure out how it goes with that one. And then, of course, we can expand to congressional races. After.
Cool stuff. Patrick wants to know: are you guys going to eventually get a Twitter account?
Yeah, I actually set one up, and so I haven't been using it that much or at all. But it's I think it's OTP 1776. So
Wait,
for the founding of the country and all.
OPC 1776.
OTP of the people.
OTP. Okay, for a second there, I was confused.
You're like, what the hell is that?
I was like ready for you to say like of the people, CO,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then I
That
heard
would be
numbers
that
and
would.
digits, and I was like, is this code?
Yeah,
But
a little
nah,
historical nod to the founding.
I like it. Cool stuff. Kind of like the Lincoln Project, I guess,
Yes, a little bit of that. A little bit of that
or
vibe.
taking inspiration from my. I think you guys are doing a little different like stuff, but uh, dude, I want to talk about this craziness. This
So
saga. I
much.
don't know the saga. This episode that's taken place over the past week with Yang being not being on the list of speakers at the DNC convention. The
Mhm.
Yang gang just raising hell about it on
Hell
Twitter.
yeah, we did.
It was actually got all the way up to number 2 in the United States, and it was actually really cool to see like the amount of support, not just from the Yang gang, but from like people like Ted Lieu and Ro
Mhm.
Khanna,
Yeah.
and there's tons of other people. I can't remember them all. And now the DNC, they've reversed their. Well, I don't know if it's reversing. Basically, they added Yang, and not only is he's speaking right before Joe Biden. Like you can't go from a worse to a better situation. And before we get your reaction, I just want to throw one more thought at you. Isn't it kind of cool? Because if you think back to Yang's speech in Iowa in November, he was like, "You're probably." I know what you're thinking right now. You're wondering, how is this guy still speaking
Right.
after Elizabeth Warren and before Joe Biden? And then in the debate, he's like, how am I still up on this stage with
Yeah.
them? And now here it is again. He gets 2 minutes, but
I mean, that's prime time, those 2 minutes, and
yeah.
it's freaking incredible on so many levels. I mean, I think number one, it did show that the Yang gang, yeah, we've had our internal disagreements and there's a little drama here and there, but at the end of the day, like, we're ready to go to battle for Andrew.
Yeah.
That's like a key unifying kind of thing, and it's like a general that the troops have been loyal to coming back onto the field, and we're like, hell yeah, let's go. So I think that was amazing how instantly like everyone activated and was like, F yes, like we're not going to put up with this crap. So that was fantastic. Yeah. I think the second thing is I have a theory, and it's completely speculative. I don't know if they intentionally put him right before Biden. I have a feeling that may actually have been a little bit of party incompetence, and somebody put on a spreadsheet the wrong row. And so I think one of the things that we need to do as the gang is celebrate that positioning and solidify it as much as possible, so that when they're in a meeting tomorrow and they're like, wait a minute, you put him right before Biden, and they're going to be like, well, we can't change it now. The Yang gang's going to get all pissed. But I'll take it.
Dude, you're 100% spot on with that, because I'll be honest, like when I woke up this morning and I saw that he was speaking right before Biden, I was like, wait, there's no way this is true. And I went up and I looked it up, and I'm like, holy crap, he's speaking right before Joe Biden. Like literally every single news network in the country, every single journalist is going to be watching that moment, and right before it happens, you're gonna get to see the Asian guy who wants to give everybody $1,000 a month.
I love it.
I don't know what happened, but you're right. Everyone keep being like, yeah, Yang right before Biden.
Yes.
Can't change it now.
Like the longer we turn that up, the more likely they're going to be in a meeting and be like, all right, look, we can move him back, and then we're going to create more drama with these Yang gang people.
These crazy Yang gang lunatics.
Or just leave them there and whatever, it's good. So, I mean, I suspect I was actually worried of the opposite happening. Like when we were kind of raising attention to this issue, and then there was word that, oh, they're going to add him. I was thinking, like, you better not add him like to some Monday afternoon pre-show BS 2 p.m. slot that nobody's
Yeah.
going to watch.
And I think that's kind of what people felt at first.
Yeah,
Because
right.
Yang went on Yang Speaks and he was like, yeah, we're going to have some sort of role. Like, it might be like a video present. I don't know. But no, this seems like the real deal.
Well, it's even in the worst case scenario, if they keep him in that pre-Biden slot, those 2 hours before the Biden speech are going to be golden no matter what. Like, it's almost hard to get a bad slot in that block. So, of course, right before Biden, I'll take it. But even in that,
it's a cherry on top.
Yeah.
But just getting like that spot is it's big for Yang and a huge opportunity for him. And I'm curious, like, what are you looking for? He only has 2 minutes, but that's still double the amount of time that AOC will have. So I'm pretty satisfied.
Oh yeah, that's you can't buy that kind of airtime. I mean, I think first of all, the fact that he's going to be on the stage, it actually has great meaning to me and my family at a personal level. So I'm the father of 2 boys, and when they announced the official 36 speakers, and there was not a single Asian American man on the list, I was thinking to myself, like, we're going to be watching this convention with my family, and my kids are going to be kind of unconsciously taught that this is not for you. This is a venue that's for other people. It's for white men, for Black women, for Hispanic men, for Hispanic women. But you're, a half Asian woman, of course, with Kamala. But you, as a young Asian American man, like, you're back in the shadows. And so just the fact that he's going to be on that stage at that kind of prominent thing is a huge deal for a lot of Asian Americans, especially parents of Asian American boys. So I think that's incredible. In terms of what he could do with his 2 minutes, it'll be an interesting challenge because, and I know Andrew wouldn't do this, but the temptation will be to try and kind of self-promote. Like you saw, I think Chris Christie did this at the Republican convention, where it was like he was giving his own campaign speech. And it was like, hey, you're supposed to be supporting, I guess maybe it was when Romney was running. Yeah, Christie was like kind of like basically just talking about himself the whole time. So I think Yang will have to take the high road and really try and tie together that unique Yang perspective with the Biden-Harris kind of platform and team, and not appear like he's grabbing power or, trying to be too kind of self-centered. At the same time, like, he needs to be Yang and he needs to bring a unique perspective. So that'll be a hard balancing act, but I have great confidence in Andrew, so I'm sure he'll nail it.
Yeah, I agree in the sense that it's definitely like a balancing act, because ultimately you do want to tie it to not only the party or Biden, but also the party. And with that such a short amount of time, it'll be difficult. I was thinking last night to myself, like, if I was Yang and I had 2 minutes, what would I want to talk about? And just thinking on Yang and thinking in the moment we're in and thinking about the progress that's been made on this issue in the past 6 months, I feel like he's gonna, I feel, to me, it seems like he's gonna use the moment in some way to talk about universal basic income, and try to tie it and to say, like, this is the policy that Democrats should be on board with. And he just kind of had like an opinion piece saying like the same thing on CNN yesterday. I don't know for sure, but it's interesting. But it's such a weird thing because you have to tie that to Biden somehow. And
right. And not everyone in the audience is pro UBI. So I would imagine the kind of smart political play will be to emphasize the need for direct cash relief during this COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And then those of us in the gang will know what that means.
Yeah.
And everybody else will be like, yeah, direct cash relief. I think it would be really cool if he reinforces his branding as a guy that supports facts and statistics and math. So one thing that Harris, I think, did really well in her first speech as a running mate was talking about how every 80 seconds someone's dying of COVID. Those kinds of things really land with people. And if Yang could talk about the income inequality gap or the COVID kind of response gap or the mail-in ballot kind of potential risks that we have and these kinds of data-driven approaches, then that also burnishes Yang's positioning as the guy for science and for logic. And I suspect he'll do it in a way that the other speakers aren't going to be as comfortable. And it still helps Biden and Harris. So hopefully they'll find some kind of win-win.
Yeah, and I think Tom Elkins brings up a great point here. Is Yang can't say more in 2 minutes than anybody else
Seriously
out there. So he's used to it. He's used to making a lot out of a little. So
he is he's the opposite of, frankly, of Trump and sometimes Biden, to be honest.
Yeah. Here's another interesting thing with the whole I guess just the convention and also Yang, or not Yang. I wish Yang, but Biden picking Kamala Harris as VP is Kamala Harris. She is on board, co-sponsor of the bill to give most Americans $2,000 a month for the duration of the pandemic and 3 months after. That's a huge deal to me. Like, I'm trying to like picture this. Like, think about where we were as the Yang Gang like a year ago. A bunch of like amateur novices. We still pretty much are amateur novices, but we just had that like that youthful energy, like just out of like fresh out of like just got into college, like just graduated high school, like that youthful energy to us or whatever. And to think that if we had told you a year ago, and it all, as Yang says, it sucks that this is the circumstances that had to make it happen, like a pandemic. But the fact that the vice presidential nominee of this Democratic Party supports direct cash payments monthly recurring, that's pretty huge in and of itself. And while personally I kind of have some real like gripes with Kamala Harris, like policy disagreements, I'm very excited about that. It makes me very happy.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is I'm quite pleased with this pick as a running mate. I feel like of course the support for cash relief is a key step towards permanent basic income, but I also feel like Biden, had he picked someone else, would have taken unnecessary risk. Like, this is his campaign to lose kind of thing. Like, it's really Trump's doing all he can to kind of activate the Democratic voters. And in a way, like, Biden just needs to kind of like get out of Trump's way, let Trump do what he's going to do, and add the traditional role of a running mate, which is, they call the attack dog of the ticket. And Kamala knows how to prosecute. She knows how to cross-examine. She's no pushover. So, and we also know Trump has difficulty debating and dealing with strong women. Like, he's very uncomfortable with that whole concept.
Yeah. The one thing that I do wonder, just kind of like, there does seem to be like this consensus to me that like Kamala was like the safe pick. And I kind of do wonder about that. Like, personally, to me, it feels like Susan Rice maybe would have been safer. Personally, I think I was hoping for Karen Bass, but I don't think she would have been that safe, because I think she was like, the whole Trump, I guess, administration tactic is to paint Biden as this radical lefty, and it's not going to work, because I think everybody knows that Biden's like just kind of like, I mean,
he's the opposite of a radical leftist. Come on. He's
like, it doesn't work. It doesn't stick. But why do you say like Why do you think Kamala is a safe pick? Because like to me, I just think back to like the fact that we have a video about it on our channel, like made literally 13 months ago about like Kamala Harris flip flopping on Medicare for all. She said it uh, in a town hall with Jake Tapper in January 2019. Like she was on board with Bernie's bill and she would get rid of like private insurance, and then later she changed her mind on it. And to me, it just kind of shows, like, in my opinion, that she might be a little inauthentic in like rather than like actually really believing in like a set of principles and policies. She is more like believing in kind of what's best for Kamala. I don't know. I mean, like she also was like a sponsor of the Green New Deal, but I assume now like she wouldn't be on board with the Green New Deal. So like, I don't know. There's a question there for me. It's like I don't really know exactly what you're getting out of Kamala. Like,
It's a fair question. I mean, I think I've listened to podcasts where when she was a candidate in the primaries, you could tell she was still searching for her position
identity,
and there was a certain amount of pliability to kind of her platform. What I will say about Kamala Harris is that she is the devil you know. So if you're Biden and you're like, hey, Susan Rice, Karen Bass, like they're great, but they haven't been under nearly as much scrutiny as Harris. And so, again, like this is a don't take on unnecessary risk move. That would be my advice to Biden. If you were like, hey, what would you do? I'd be like, hey, you are likely going to win this thing if you don't do anything stupid. One stupid thing you could do is do what like McCain did with Palin, and then you end up with a crazy person on your ticket that you can't even explain away because they just go rogue and they don't read, they don't make any sense. And so I think with Harris, it's like, yeah, was she my top pick? No. Do I find like her attacks on Biden kind of disingenuous or a little bit too self-serving? Yeah, but whatever, man. Show me a politician that's perfect. Like they're all flawed. We're all humans, right? And she's way better of a pick than anyone else I can think of. Like Rice, you would have a problem with the foreign policy stuff. I think Rice could be kind of lumped in with a more aggressive interventionist kind of policy angle. She does have a little bit of Benghazi kind of taint. I know she wasn't directly involved, but she was the one that was representing the Obama administration, in the press right after Benghazi happened. Also, Rice has not run for stuff. She's been appointed to things. So as much as I love like Rhodes Scholars and really bright people, like, I don't know how she would do. And Bass, I think, is also really interesting, but again, just less mileage, less kind of, there's more unknowns with some of these other choices. With Harris, I think we know what we're generally going to get.
Yeah, I agree that with Harris, you generally know what you're gonna get. I just feel like in terms of like I guess I disagree with the consensus Democratic like opinion that's like, oh, this is a good like safe pick, because I feel like people when you say like we know what we're getting with her, it's like we kind of do, and I feel like it's honestly like not that great, and I feel like it makes it easier for Republicans to try to like attack Biden, frankly. Like so I don't know. I don't know, like usually these things don't really matter that much, but apparently there's a new poll out, like 59% of Americans or voters, and this includes 49% of Democrats, actually don't think Biden will make it through his first term, which is kind of crazy stat, like that many people feel that way about it. So is this like the election where the VP does matter? I don't know. It's just like when I was thinking about it, I was like, did Biden's chances of winning go up or down today? And I feel like when they made the pick, and I was like, I feel like they went down, in my opinion.
Well, I hope you're wrong, but I could see the argument. With the 50% Americans thinking that he won't Biden won't finish the first term. I would imagine probably 30 percentage points of those 50 are just Republicans who are, really eager to say that Biden's, the senile crazy person is about to keel over. I would say after watching these Trump press conferences, like he does not look, I'm not sure what percent of people think he will finish his second term if he were to do one. He's not looking fantastic himself.
Yeah.
Now with Harris, the thing you do also get is you can neutralize a little bit of the Republican talking point that, the Democrats are for complete anarchy. I mean, she was an attorney general. If anything, people have criticized her for being too hard on people who've been arrested and stuff. So I feel like she shores up the law and order concerns, if there were any, about the Biden ticket. The second thing is in terms of like what we get with Harris, while she might move around between Warren and, let's say, Biden in terms of her policy positions, like, to me, the things that matter are you going to introduce what will likely be a public option for the Affordable Care Act? Are you going to restore some environmental protection regulations? Are you going to, restore some of the relations we have with our international allies? And then are you just going to like not be crazy every other day? And if that's what we get for the next 4 years, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this being a transitional term. And then the big change happens in the 2024 race, because like just those few things would be high impact for the country. And the alternative is really terrifying to me. I really feel like the Trump leadership has gone from crazy to just completely obscene. It's terrible.
Yeah, I do think for the people that like didn't see it already, like I'm pretty sure now that like Trump actually faced a real crisis instead of just some like stupid like made up media TV drama. Like I think the cat's out of the bag on that. He clearly isn't like capable of being a president, and I think for like a lot of people they knew that back in 2016, but some went for the spiel. It's like I think it's pretty obvious that he's not the answer. I don't know. I just like personally, I just have gripes with Kamala. I'll tell you like one more that I have. That is, she said during the debate, I think that if she within like first 100 days, she would have like this aggressive gun policy agenda, and if Congress didn't pass it, that on day 100, she would sign like a series of executive orders, like basically doing what she wants. And to me, it's like, well, I don't really like it when Trump does like an executive order last week to try to like circumvent Congress. Even like if technically like, I think it's good. Some of the things that Trump did with this executive order are good, but like you're still not supposed to do it. And I don't know necessarily if it's a good idea, even if Kamala did some executive actions that maybe a lot of people agreed with. I still don't know if it's a good idea and sets a good precedent. But
yeah, I'll agree with you that any kind of abuse or excessive use of executive orders is very concerning. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if she said that stuff after like, the last shooting and Beto was like going really.
Yeah, you had to match
right?
out to Beto. It's a Democratic primary, and it kind of does go back to the whole thing with Kamala, which is like, I just don't know necessarily even really what she actually herself believes. But I guess that's what does make her a decent pick for the Democratic establishment.
Well, let
my
me
opinion,
give you a positive interpretation of this. I agree with you that she's not like Bernie. With Bernie, like his positions have been the same since like the 70s, and like he ain't changing for anything.
I know, yeah. Biden definitely, what he believes.
Yeah, and with Harris, I think she's gonna do the most practical thing for her to have power. And in that example, if that for some reason she became president, let's say in the terrible situation that Joe didn't make it through, her advisors would not say, hey, you know what? The first thing you should do is sign a bunch of executive orders and like freak out the Second Amendment people, because that is not our biggest problem right now. Our biggest problem, she's going to need to figure out COVID.
Hopefully she would do the $2,000 a month.
Yeah, she's going to need to figure out the recession. And she's probably going to need to figure out some foreign policy like disaster that kind of they inherit. And the gun stuff, like that's not a smart political move. Therefore, I have confidence that she's not gonna do that. She's not gonna do something dumb. I mean, in some ways, these politicians, while they're kind of gross and they do what is popular, is not terrible to the extent that that is, you know, kind of responding to what the people want. And I don't think the people are demanding more gun control as like the top priority. So therefore, she should probably follow that lead.
Yeah, I wonder. I want to talk about, because someone did bring it up, like at the very beginning of the stream, like the implications of the Kamala pick in terms of whether, if, and how it will impact Yang in 2024. And personally, before like getting into it, like I don't think it's a wise strategy to say let's vote for this ticket or this ticket in 2020 because it's more likely to lead to a Yang thing in 2024. Mm-hmm. I just think that's a poor way to look at politics and elections. I think you have to remember also like how unpredictable politics is, and you can't like try to forecast this move and extrapolate that into I'm not, if like, but basically what I'm going to get at is like, I think that if Biden Harris wins, I think it's pretty obvious that like Harris would immediately become like the front runner for 2024 if Biden chooses not to run again, which seems likely. And a lot of Yang Gang might not like that because, you know, they want Andrew to be the nominee in 2024. So some might be like, oh, well, we shouldn't support Biden and Kamala. I don't think that's really like, I'd rather separate that because I just don't think it's a good way to cast like your vote. Some might disagree, but I do wonder, like, do you think I think it does make it more difficult for Yang if, Kamala is like this huge heavyweight force in 2024. But what do you think?
One thing is, if we think Yang is going to be president, he's going to need to be able to outcompete every other candidate in the primary. And if we're terrified of Kamala VP running, like, then, then
I do kind of agree. I mean, like, I have real policy gripes with her, and I feel like, Yang and her are very friendly, as someone in chat just pointed out. But at the end of the day, I think Yang can prove that his policies and positions are better than hers in a primary. I really like this, and this goes back to the whole like convention thing, like in terms of how big a moment this is this like where the like Democrat, like I guess not Democrat, the establishment media, like corporate media, kind of looks at Yang and it's like, oh, he's like one of us now. We can start covering him like he's an insider, and like he's gonna actually be like someone in 2024 who can get real coverage and not get treated like a joke, because that would just make things all that much more easier. And there was the poll out this week too from like this Ledger 360 showing Yang in fifth place at 8% among Democrats for an early 2024 Democratic primary poll, which is higher than he ever polled.
That's for darn sure.
This time around.
Yeah. And he was like 1 point behind Pete or someone. It was pretty great. I would say to the whole argument of like, oh, like, will this pick affect Yang in 2024? I agree with you that that's a dangerous game to play, because look, let's just call a spade. Like, the probability of Andrew Yang becoming president is very low. The same as the probability of any one person becoming president is very low. Yep. So to say, oh, screw it, let's just like torpedo the country from 2021 to 2024 so that we could have like a 1% chance of getting our guy in office in 2024. Like I'm just not down with that. Like I I think you got to do the right thing for the country, every cycle. And then in terms of like, will Kamala be this, juggernaut? We have seen time after time. Jeb Bush was the juggernaut. He was the inherited one that was supposed to be the Republican nominee. And there was no way that Biden was going to be in the lead because all of these amazing people like Beto and Pete were running and Warren was so unstoppable, blah, blah, blah. So, if Kamala's in the lead before Iowa, if anything, I would imagine that means she's probably not going to end up being the nominee if you look at recent history. So we got to back our guy because we think he's the best person in the race. And I do think your point is absolutely spot on that he will be taken more seriously. He's going to have all this CNN time burned in. He's now going to have a major effing speaking opportunity at the convention. And I remember watching a long time ago when a state senator from Illinois by name of Barack Obama had a little slot, and the freaking was the beginning of a historic run, 4 years later. So I think we're going to be in a great spot. I think at a minimum, they're going to treat us maybe like the Castro campaign, got treated, where, you're going to get enough attention, but then you're going to have to earn it and you're going to have to grow it. And to me, the biggest question that I don't know is how does Yang cross over to the to beyond, right now, he's got the nerd data math people. He's got a lot of disaffected people who are just tired of the same old crap. And, but he hasn't yet shown strength with more of the mainstream Democratic voters. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he'll be able to cross over. It'll be interesting to see if he can figure that one out.
Yeah, that is, I guess, the challenge is kind of, and I think that's the vote. I guess the vote that the Kamala Harris and says and the Elizabeth Warrens and the Pete Buttigieg judges of the world kind of had locked up this primary round. I guess to me it seems like it's. I mean, this is kind of, you just go back to the primary. It does seem like everybody liked Yang. It was just that question of, is he someone I like? Do I think he's ready to be president, or do I think he's more of a cabinet spot guy? So I just do think just stuff like this DNC convention speech, it will help shift the Overton window in terms of people being able to see Yang not just as this guy who would be a good part of the team, but perhaps as the leader of the team.
And if he gets a cabinet role and can make some let's say he joins the Biden administration and he's the point man on the kind of economic recovery as it relates to support for the people through the cash release stuff. And that's successful. I mean, that's it, man. Then suddenly he's a national figure with real gravitas, and he's not just this podcast guy. So I'm excited. Yeah.
That is a cool thing to think about, because again, just I brought up earlier, a year ago, nobody would have ever imagined the vice presidential candidate for the Dems would be all aboard $2,000 a month. What if Yang does get in the administration and is the cash relief czar? Yeah.
And he drives the pilots, and he's the one that's talking
a hero.
Yeah, it would be
the Fauci of the coronavirus relief.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Cash. Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
And Eric Sanchez would be able to come out with a pillow line and do one with Yang's face on it instead. It'd be a full circle.
Worst things could happen, man.
Yeah. Whew, man. Trying to think. Oops, wrong comment. Patrick says the DNC speech right before Biden should really help Dems learn who Yang is. And I think that is the key thing. If the time holds, it's everybody's going to be we're just talking about it. All the Buttigieg, the Buttigieg voters, you're kind of liberal. I don't like calling it liberal elite because it makes you sound like this Republican right wing, you hate Dems,
Mhm.
but they kind of are like, I guess that's what it is. It's like the liberal elite. They're all going to be like getting out their glasses of wine and having like dinner cooking or whatever, and tuning in like 30 minutes early or whatever, and then Yang's
Mhm.
gonna be on. It's gonna be great.
You know, you can't underestimate the power of familiarity, and the more Yang can just be like a household name, it's going to be huge. And let's be grateful. I mean, we were begging to be on a stage with like 10, 13 other candidates back in the day, right? And now we're
Yeah,
on the freaking DNC on the prime night, at least in the 2-hour block before the Biden big speech, maybe right before. Seriously, like if you told me that was going to happen, I would be like, no, this, that's never going to happen. Like, this is amazing.
yep. It's awesome. I think it was a very successful week to be Yang Gang, and also today's Humanity First Day. Tom, are you planning on doing anything? I'll be honest. I don't know if I've done really like a Humanity First activity today, so I'm gonna have to probably do that after the podcast.
Yeah, I don't know. I did a show this morning. We're talking now, and I'm gonna join Rio in a little bit. So I think there'll be more Humanity First content produced. Beyond that, at some
Yeah,
point,
we
I'll have.
always make content. We gotta go out a little different.
Well, I'm also working on the other people, the
Yeah,
software development for that stuff.
I'm just being annoying. But yeah, I think this is a good place to call it. Tom, it was really a pleasure having you on, and I'm excited because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on your channel here in like a month or so in September. And remember, everybody, check out ofthepeople.co and consider supporting all of the volunteer work that's going on there. Because right now, I'm sure all the expenses are coming out of pocket pretty much. So
Yeah, they're coming from the Tom personal budget, but it's good for now.
It's all good for now. If you wanna help out, feel free.
Yeah,
It's all good.
we'd appreciate it.
But
Matt, thanks for having me on the show, and I look forward to the next one when you're in the nerd zone, and I have a feeling we're gonna have a really exciting next few years. So
yeah,
let's make it happen.
awesome. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.